Good morning, class. It's English time. In our previous lessons, we've been looking at reading and writing. Most of our concentration has been on reading part. Now, I want us to concentrate much on the writing part. Writing consists of different elements that are constituted in writing. A writer has to follow a different or a certain type of dimension whenever he or she is thinking of writing a piece of writing, like a short story, a poem, a folktale. So these are what we call the elements of literature. There are different types of elements of literature that we're going to be looking at. For instance, we have what we call the setting, we have what we call the plot, we have what we call the theme, we have what we call the point of view, we also have what we call the mood, the tone of the story. So these are what we call the elements of literature. In today's lesson, we'll be looking at what we call element number one, which is the setting. The setting is basically where the story is taking place. It's what we call a setting. A setting is, in simpler terms, where the story is taking place. Writers describe the world they know. So a writer writes according to the surrounding, or according to his or her surrounding, or to the world he or she knows. For instance, sounds, sights, colors, textures are all vividly painted in words as an artist paints images on canvas. So a writer can write about colors, can write about sound, and these are portrayed in his writing. A writer imagines a story to be happening in a place that is rooted in his or her mind. The location of a story's action, along with time in which it occurs, is the setting. As I've already said, a writer imagines a place, an environment, so that's what, and depicts things happening in that environment. So a setting is where the story is taking place. You see, let's say you decide to write a story about the village, the setting, the village will be the setting of the story. Setting is created by language. How many or how few details we learn is up to the author. Many authors leave a lot of these details up to the reader's imagination. Some or all of these aspects of setting should be considered when examining a story. So we're going to look at some of the elements or aspects of a setting that you should consider when trying to come up with a setting of a story. So each story has to have a setting. A story has to have a place where it's taking place. So that's aspect number one, a place. A setting has to have a place. This is the geographical location. Where is the action of the story taking place? So that's the place. Where the action of the story is taking place is the place. In other words, is the geographical location. Another aspect of a setting is time. When is the story taking place, or when did the story taking place? As a writer, you have to think of that. When is this story taking place? Is it going to be in the present time? Is it going to be in the past tense? So as a writer, before you write, you have to think of time. Or in every story that you are reading, think of what time is this story being depicted, or where is the place of this story taking place. So that is the setting. Another aspect of the setting that you should consider, or that a writer considers, the weather conditions. Is it rainy? Am I going to write about a rainy season, a sunny season, a stormy season? So all these are aspects of a setting. Social conditions. What is the daily life of the characters depicted in the story? The mood or atmosphere of the story. What is the feeling? What feeling is created at the beginning of the story? Is it bright and cheerful or dark and frightening? So in all those stories that we have been looking at, that the stories that you have been looking, or the stories that you have been reading at home, try and look at the setting. The setting, I said, is the location where the story is taking place. So look at the mood, look at the social conditions, look at the weather conditions, look at the place, and then the story you have read, you will see that it has a place where the story is taking place. So that is the setting. Choose any story that you have read, we have been looking at in the past weeks or in the past lessons, and then try to on your own, try to discover or yeah, try to discover the setting of the story. Any you can take or you can think of any story that we have looked at together and try to describe the setting of the story. In the next topic, we'll be looking at the plot. A plot is another element of literature. For now, we have looked at the setting. Next topic, we'll be looking at the plot. So you might as well want to look up on that as well. Thank you very much. See you in our next lesson.